Happy Monday night. It's Monday night and we're doing cocktails. We are naughty this week, aren't we? I was having a bit of a struggle with the curtain. Sorry about that. When I turned on my camera, there was this weird slant of light across my face, and I thought, where's that coming from? Aliens? It was so pronounced. I got it. I got it rigged. If it falls, you'll know because all of a sudden you'll see this weird flash of light. Oh, got there in the end. Monday afternoon slash evening, everybody. Happy Monday. So it's always the worst day of the week, isn't it? And I don't know why. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a new beginnings thing, right? Maybe it's like, yay, seize the day, another week. But it just feels like, not so much in the summer, but it's just a Monday. Maybe there's just too much talk about Mondays. We should just do it, right? It is nice to be with you on a Monday, though. In the evening, I do like the evening shows. I have to say, I was able all day to scurry around and get some more stuff done. It's remarkable when you have these moments where, and you probably know this feeling too, you do so many things because you're in such a tailspin. It's like a proper dither, having to do so many things, and then you think, man, I would not want to repeat today. That was a lot, right? And then, yeah, it's going to happen again tomorrow because the book's not done. So I want to remind you, after tonight's episode, which is going to be a fantastic conclusion to gallery night from last night, I won't be with you until I'm finished with this book. It's probably going to be a week. It might not even be a week. We'll see how it goes. But make sure you're looking out. I have to get it done. I must get it done immediately. It's causing way too much stress and strain and aggravation. And for those of you who have images in the book, I don't know the timeline. I never knew the timeline to begin with. Mark from Rug Cooking Magazine says probably like January, like early 2024. But of course, he hasn't seen the book yet, and it depends hugely on how much editing needs to be done and what needs to be done once I deliver the book, which I have not done. So with no sort of date ever having been uttered, it's very hard to say whether it's late or not. I was not on time with the manuscript, but I also know that he's had an extraordinarily busy summer, and he wasn't reading all of the manuscripts that came in the spring in the course of like a month or two, right? So everything is a little bit slanted. Not just the light. So we'll see how it goes, and I will certainly keep you updated. It's going to be a fantastic book, this Design Like book. I have to say, I'm loving the way that it's coming together, and even with that copyright problem, I did a turn that frown upside down thing where at first I thought, forget it, I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't use any images without mortgaging the house. And I can't use the number of images that I want, but incredibly, when you really put your mind to something, I thought of some creative ways around it that were still perfectly legal and not naughty. But I figured it out. Now when I look at the files of those chapters going in with your images and the images that have been sent for the main image and also the gallery image within every chapter, every single one is like, whoa. Even I think it looks good, and I am a really tough critic to myself. It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. I will keep you posted. Andrea, great to see you 2 late nights and drinking in a row. Oh, dear. That is a lot, isn't it? It's good to see you, though. And you do have a piece. I don't think I did your piece yet. I'm so sorry, Andrea. Maybe it'll come up early in the show. I'll shut my mouth and keep going. Kirsten, great to see you. Happy Madcap Monday. That's a great reminder that right now on our Facebook group, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, Kirsten and I call it Le Club for short. It is Madcap Monday, so people are allowed to go on their other brands, big companies, small, one-offs, are very welcome and encouraged to go on there and sell on Mondays, every Monday. So I hope that you'll do that, and I hope you'll check out some of the other stuff that's for sale. Joyce, great to see you. Hello in Pennsylvania. Linda B., second evening of sharing. Oh, it's such a lot of fun. I'm just not going to rush through these anymore. I'm realizing more and more that with 15,000 people in our group now, and I do have to do a welcome video still, gallery nights are larger, and as they should be, right? They are growing proportionately according to the amount of buddies in our group. So it might be that we end up doing 2 or 3 gallery nights in a month. It might just be that way. It might turn into a regular feature. We'll see how much work we get. But the one thing that I will not, there's 2 things I won't do. One of them is rush through people's excellent work. And the other one is cut it or edit it. I'm not ever going to cut it or edit it. If it turns out that with books coming out and all that, we suddenly have, 5 million people, then it's gonna be a lot of gallery nights. That's all there is to it, right? Oh man, Barbara, great to see you. Hello in Toronto. And Melissa, great to see you. Finally cooling down in New Brunswick. And you got your goods today. I'm so excited for you to get going on that. Ah, I love those two patterns. Cooling down here too. Hope it's not going to cool down too much because what is today? August? No, it's still July. Still July. I was going to say, oh no, I'm late with the rent for the studio. I can do that tomorrow. Hope it's not cooling off too much because it's a crazy time, isn't it? We're going to head to the Cape next week with Linda Ann, and I would love to go into that water without hesitation. So if ever there was a time for it to be blazing sun again, please let it be next week, right? No more of this rain business. Judy, great to see you. Gallery night part 2. It is absolutely too much talent to jam into one show. It's too much talent to rush through. And I don't like clipping our side conversations too, where we say, oh, what kind of frame is that? And how did you do that? That's just as much fun. And that's a huge part of the show. I hope for all of us. Linda H. in Massachusetts, great to see you. Diane, great to see you in Diane, NL. Diane, NL. Why am I struggling with uh-oh. Is my brain okay to run a show? NL. New Labrador? Is okay, it's got to be Canada, right? It's got to be New Labrador. I'm thinking North. Brrr. Good to see you. It's me. It's always me. Good to see you, Diane. Juliet, great to see you in Maryland. Brenda, great to see you in Dunedin. It's been a while since I pronounced that one. I bet that's wrong. Florida. And you just had some much needed rain. Mom, you remember to log back on. Good to see you. Catherine, great to see you. Happy Monday. Juliet says, almost done with the MCM rug for the book. Should be able to get you good photos in the next few days. I hope I can finish the chapter in the next few days. That's the thing. I still have so much to do on my end. It's crazy. It really was it threw me for a loop with all this copyright stuff. I honestly, years ago when I was writing papers for school and stuff, it was not the same. You could use images, and people didn't give you a hard time. Images lending or allowing, granting permission for images was always based on the project and the size of the project and the reach of the project. And now it's just like, where's the 450? So it's good. Newfoundland and Labrador. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to remember that. I know that. It just escaped me. Let's start our great night. And I'm going to keep an eye on the thread because I bet some other buddies are going, oh, I forgot to say cheers, my dears. I'm doing it 2 nights in a row too. It's supposed to be like fasting in the evening for myself to fit in my clothes again and just dieting in general. And it's just not happening right now. It's just crazy. So let me see. This was this was the beginning of our sheets. I think I took the wrong pile. I did take the wrong pile. Let me go to these. Let's see what we've got first up. I know what we've got first up. Let me share my screen and say, remember last night when we were talking about frames and Juliet said, oh, I have a floor frame from Canada. Someone said, what's a Chetty Camp frame? And Juliet said, I have a floor frame from Canada. And I'll post some pictures on the Facebook group. So you did. Thank you, Juliet. You did post some pictures on the Facebook group. And these are what they look like. So for those of you, those are nice slippers. Somebody commented, nice slippers. And they really are. Ruth, good to see you. We are just getting started. Great to see you. You're finishing up a small rug. Oh, I can't wait to see that. Oh, exciting. I can't wait to get started on a small rug. Allie, great to see you. You saw the notification. Hello in Mississippi, and you're grateful for that breeze. Oh, I bet. It's that nice time of the day that you're getting that little breeze running through. So this is what a floor frame looks like. They all look very different, right? They all look different. Some of them are collapsible, but this is basically the sort of scale of what it looks like. And do you remember how Juliet was saying, yeah, it stretches north to south. Oh, Dawn, great to see you in Southeast Michigan. It stretches north to south, but it does not stretch east to west. So sometimes people need to do something. Juliet, were these screws, the hooks, part of the kit, or did you screw those in? I'm just wondering, because this is exactly what we were describing. Do you remember that Juliet said that she ran a metal rod, like a little knitting needle kind of thing, or a little rod, down the side where there is no stretch, and then attached it to the sides of the frame. In this case, oh, the hooks came with the frame, so they were anticipating that need. That's fantastic. So in the old days, you would just tie them around the wood with pantyhose, but now it comes with these little hooks, so you can slip, weave it pretty well. So there's not a lot of stress in one or two areas, almost like stitches that are closer together. What Juliet's done here is absolutely perfect. You weave in a little rod or a knitting needle, and in this case, I think elastic. It looks like elastic bands, and you just attach it to the hooks. You just drag it over to the hooks and hook it on there, right? And then you've got that great taut pull from side to side. Isn't that smart? Juliet is very smart. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't mean to do that so fast. Juliet, thank you so much for sending these pictures. This is very easy to visualize now. And if you have the kind of a frame that isn't set up for that, well, you just need to go to the hardware store and get those little hooks that you just screw in, right? It's going to work great. It's going to work really great. I think that's a really good solution. Because, depending on how you sit, and we all sit differently. I've been having my floor frame right here, and I took it away because I keep scratching my arm on it, even though it's covered with it's actually covered with a steering wheel cover, the combs. But I keep bumping it and moving it and scratching myself in the same place, so I moved it out of here. But I have a couple of floor frames that I do have a Chetty Camp frame in the next room, which I'm never on. I'm never on that frame. But I do like using them from time to time. And it really does depend on how you sit. And we say this all the time, but I don't think we've said it lately. Depending on how you plan to sit, I just changed the sofa in the living room, and that's typically where I sit. And I put the old sofa, which the dog had been licking. I don't know why does your dog lick the sofa just like just constantly licking the arm of the sofa? He just started doing it like a year ago, and it's so gross. I just hear him like just until you stop him, until you just it's just so gross. And I thought, well, there's plenty of breath on that sofa now. I think I'm going to give it to the kids because the kids don't care. So I put it in their room and I covered it with a cover, and I got a different couch for the living room. And now that I'm sitting on the different couch, right, if I bring a floor frame over to me, it feels different because it's a little bit higher. And I was just used to it a different way. And when things change, sometimes, when you're like a crazy old crone, that can be upsetting, right? So it's upset me. But now I find that I'm reaching for different frames that I have more on my lap because I'm sitting a little bit differently. All these little adjustments that need to be made with your surroundings. If you make a little change of some sort, or something happens, I'm hoping that when I lose weight again and I'm my normal size again, I don't expect to be like a model, right? I just expect to be the size that I was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I'm wondering if my frame will feel so good, because right now it kind of sits on my tummy, and I'm thinking, oh, what if that tummy wasn't there? Now that would be a good problem, wouldn't it? So funny how we have to adapt to different things. And yeah, you find the kind of frame that you like, and if it's got some things going for it, just figure out how you can adapt it with simple things like those little hooks to make it work better for you. Or Danny was using a needlepoint frame. We saw that in the episode last night. You just make it work for you. It doesn't have to be the way that I do it, right? You don't have to have my frame. You have to have the frame that's comfortable for you when you're sitting on the couch. Dave, good to see you. Hi, everybody. Popcorn from, oh, you got movie theater popcorn and hard cider. Oh, nothing like movie theater popcorn in the whole world, is there? God, it's just the best. It is the most irresistible thing to be at the movies and be foolish enough to think that you are, for me, not going to get the popcorn and that you're going to be good, right? And you're just going to smell the popcorn. Yeah, it's completely compelling and irresistible. So fun. Now, what did I miss? Juliet says, Ruth, I've been eyeing the longer rollers too. Hooks came with the frame. I use rubber bands. Ruth said, they came with the frame, and you can get longer bars for this frame. I've been looking for them. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you have the same frame, Ruth. That is interesting. And Andrea says, I want to play snakes and ladders on that rug. Absolutely. This is Shannon's rug. Remember how I screwed up yesterday and I had a spot for it, but I forgot to drop it in? And she had emailed me in time. I just didn't do it because I'm a ding dong. So this is Shannon Carter's rug. This is one of my favorite rugs. This is in the book that I'm working on right now. When I saw this image, I thought, you have got to be kidding me. This is what's missing from the Hunterwasser chapter, and it really is. So this is a beautiful rug based on a board game. This is something I love to talk about and think about because there are so many board games, and other games like that aren't per se board games like Chinese checkers, tic tac toe, games that you could actually play, right? That you could actually hook up and play. I've seen hooked rugs that are long and narrow with kind of a checkerboard in the middle, and then just spaces on both ends, like the scale of a table runner, so that you can put your checker pieces there, stack them up, or your chess pieces, or whatever you're playing. So much fun hooking a rug like this. It's so whimsical, the idea of playing on it. It's also a beautiful piece of art to hang. Of course, lots of people collect old board games, right? Because the graphics are just fantastic. And a lot of them have great memories for us and feel nostalgic to look at, don't they? Games like, for me, it's a different era because I'm 70s, 80s, but I'm thinking about games like The Magnificent Race and Careers, those kinds of games over, for example, Parcheesi or Goose or something like that. But I'm well aware of the classic games too. And of course, if you're doing it for yourself, I always say this because I'm naughty, nobody's going to know that you're doing it, right? If you're doing like something that's copyrighted by P Brothers or something like that, and it's on your wall, people are not going to know that. You have to make something that's special for you, that means something for you, that reminds you of a favorite game or of being a child or yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I wonder if you could do like a cribbage board or something. Those are maybe a little bit too basic. But I see a lot of very playful, no pun intended, rugs that do play on the idea of what Karen Garvey was talking about last night too. These great nostalgic things from our childhood, board games, jacks, tic-tac-toe. Oh, Danny, good to see you. The colors are super fun. They are super fun. One of the things that I love about the colors is that she's using as breaks white instead of black. She's using some black for outlining, but she's using a lot of white for breaks. It creates a lot of instability, which sounds like it wouldn't be a good thing, but it is a good thing because it's a geometric. It's very, very strong composition because it's a straight up geometric. Your eye and your brain are not scrambling to figure out what's going on here. This is a geometric. And because it's colorful and because it looks like it has tracks, most of us go, oh, it reminds me of a board game. And that's perfect, isn't it? That's what it's supposed to remind you of. It is a board game. And she made Shannon made this for her niece. So I think the niece is really lucky. This is such a treasure. I'm also thinking about along the lines of these nostalgic things like candy. There are some candies that are so recognizable, like Lifesavers, obviously M&Ms when they have the M on them. Lots of little. Are there some candies that you would recognize? Obviously, pretzels and things like that too. But are sweet tarts, maybe little sweet tarts in their little long wrapper? Um, Maybe Necco wafers laid down like little coins. All of these sort of childhood things that we remember. These are great ideas to use for motifs for rugs. And Kathy says, last night when you showed my blue pumpkin, I wanted to mention that late September will be at, they'll all be exhibited at, okay, hang on, wait, hold the press, that they'll be exhibited at Deerfield, New Hampshire at the fair. Uh-oh. Do you have the date right now, Kathy? I could put it right into my phone and I will be there. That sounds amazing. So that's the group that's doing it. Oh, I will be there. As long as I'm not somewhere else, I will be there. I would love to see those blue pumpkins. What a lot of fun that would be. I'm glad that you mentioned that. If you have the date, no pressure if you don't have it handy. If you don't have it handy, just go ahead and send it to me. But I'm going to put it into my phone. And I just want to remind you all for all of the fun last weekend in September. Do 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 do. All right, let's see. September. Looking good. Looking good. So that might be like the weekend of the 30th, 31st, huh? So I'm going to do Deerfield, New Hampshire. I just want to remind you all, let me do save for that, and I'm going to put it in for Saturday, or for Sunday too, just because it's probably an overnight for me. What a lot of fun. That sounds amazing. I just want to remind you all, particularly if you are in our Facebook group, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, When you have events or you have fairs coming up or you hear about something in your area, there is a feature on that page for events, and you are able to list an event. It's not something that I have to enable. You can do it. You can add an event to the event page, and I will do my best to pin it, right? I'll do my best to catch it and pin it, but always let me know because we all want to know what's going on, and we're all enjoying the summer and sucking the marrow out of that for sure. But when it becomes fall, that's, I think, in general, our favorite season, right? We start doing our sweater things, our pumpkin spice things, and taking out the really heavy rugs to work on again. And there's a lot of festivals, so I want to be sure that those don't go falling through the mesh of life, and that we get those marked on the calendar because a lot of us can travel and like to travel and road trip and day trip and all that. So let's get that calendar filled up with lots of fun stuff, right? Sonia, great to see you from hot and dry St. Francisville, Louisiana. Great to see you. So happy you're there. And I'm very happy that I remembered to put this in because I absolutely love Shannon and I felt awful about that last night. Beautiful rug, Shannon Carter. Becky, you sent in a really fun project as well. Really fun, really fun. So get ready, right? Get ready. Get your mind ready for something really different and really fun. Because I have a feeling a lot of you are going to say, "Oh, you are kidding me! I can do this." So Becky said, "Hello." Attached are pictures of a rug I latch hooked using Jackson Pollock's painting Convergence as inspiration. I used my yarn scraps to make this rug. It measures approximately 23 inches long and 19 inches wide. So I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this a little bit because now the idea behind rug making in general is thrift, right? The genesis of it is comes out of thrift, saving all your little bits and pieces in your rag bag. And I know who was the poet? I think it was Donald Hall. Wrote a collection of poems called a string, something like a string too short to save, something like that. The idea being, right back in the day, you would even save pieces of string and pieces of yarn that were this big, right? Every little bit, magpie times, every little bit. Ooh, that would be a nice name um, when we start doing our publication. Could do magpie times. I still like Wall Street Journal. I haven't had a chance to chase up what the deal is on that name. But I also like Magpie Times. Really fits the craft, doesn't it? Anyway, if you are saving up your bits and pieces and you are not using them to stuff, for example, plush toys or little potpourri things or whatever, if you're not using them for another purpose, think about using them for a Jackson Pollock. So have a gander and I want to show you the piece called Convergence. It is a super abstract piece. It is very spotty. You could try to concentrate because this piece will be worked on latch hook backing, right? She will be doing knotting. You could try to work it in, space it out in such a way that, for example, the whites are very prominent, the darks are very prominent, and the yellows, reds, and blues. Or you can just spot it up, right? Because that's how we think about a Jackson Pollock piece. I'm not going to go hugely into him. He is not in the Design Like book, not this one anyway, maybe the second. It will be epic. It's a great idea. She's already done it, so we're going to see the finished product. But this is just an interesting moment in time because the jumping off part, the place for Jackson Pollock was right at the edge of Expressionism, right? Right at the sort of heading toward the mid-century and people moving obviously away from Impressionism and even Expressionism and moving to this abstract Expressionism place, which was a little bit different. And he was considered such a renegade and such a maverick. And most people said he wasn't a nice person to be around. But he was very focused on his work, and since we're not there, who knows, right? Who knows? And of course, he did die. I think this was done in 1952. I think he died in 1956, so a few years after. But wild lifestyle, lots of drinking, lots of life, right? New York City. This was a busy and exciting time to be there. He died one night when he'd been drinking too much by crashing his car. But he did do epic work in his lifetime that was very, very different. He really experimented with the idea of what is art, and it comes back to the way that I feel about abstract art and expressionism is that when you look at it, you get a certain feeling, and if you like that feeling, then you like that piece. and it's, you know, it's not so much a conversation about symbolism or color placement or even color palette. It's just, do you like what you're getting? Technique is obviously a huge thing for him because he pioneers the splatter technique rather than like the pouring technique that Helen Frankenthaler will show right at the same time, and she's a friend of his. But really interesting person, really interesting moment, real departure from the norm. So, great idea to do a rug in the style of Jackson Pollock. All you need to make all these splashes of color are lots of pieces of scraps, right? All kinds of scraps that you've got. This is very uniform. This is very well done. What a great idea. I really love this piece. Becky, this is such a smart idea. It makes me want to do Jackson Pollock in the next design like book. I have a feeling it's all copyrighted up because his family, as you can imagine, after his death, locked stuff up really tightly. Lots of stress and darkness and bad feelings, right? So he's one of the artists that's fairly untouchable, but we can work him out in this way. This is a perfect way to represent that school of art and the style of rug making, right? Bits and pieces, splash here, splash there. You could truly do this in a hit or miss style where you're just grabbing for a color and filling it in, right? I mean, I don't want to underestimate the thoughtfulness and the intention in his work, but he was doing a lot of splattering and he was doing a lot of sprays. And you know, when you're fooling this, I'm making a joke here because I really like him and I really like his work. I really respect his work and his place in the art history, timeline. But you know, when you're painting a room and someone else happens to be there and you take the brush and you do stuff like this and spray them in the face with paint, like spray their hair. Do you do that too? It's so much fun, you know, and it's kind of what he was doing. So the idea of sort of hit or miss is pretty consistent with what Becky's doing here, using bits and pieces to kind of fill in color. And when you've got the right color palette, which you do, this is the color palette from Convergence. Brenda is asking, is that yarn or wool? Becky, I think you're on. Let me see if she wrote it. She says, my yarn scraps. She doesn't say if it's wool yarn. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It could easily be acrylic or synthetic or blend, or it could be wool yarn if it's scrap yarn left over from other stuff. It's not the pre-cut stuff that you would get in a vintage kit or in a contemporary kit. So it's her own color palette. I think that makes it, let me go back to the color palette. I think that makes it interesting because, you know, when you're starting a project like this and you mean to do certain colors, right? You wanna start pulling those colors from your own stash. Becky, it looks like you replaced the blue with the green, but otherwise you've got like the sort of the other primaries and all of the love all the exciting color brings a smile. It does, Mom. You've got that good neutral color palette going. So really, this is great as an idea. You could do, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there yet. You could do this in any color scheme that you liked. You could do really abstract work this way. You could do it small scale, large scale, and yeah, it is a latch hook backing. So when you're working with a latch hook backing, you can either latch it with a latch hook, or you can try using a rug hook or a crochet hook. The only thing that matters is if you can drag it through. I want to be naughty and show you what I was working on right before this show. It's not naughty because it's not been said that I'm not allowed to. Let me just run in the other room and grab a piece that I was working on latch hook backing. It's a piece based on Annie Albers, who is a weaver. That reminds me, for those of you who are weavers, I need a picture of somebody weaving, and I would like it to be one of our buddies, right here. If you're a weaver and you have a picture of yourself weaving, I would love to use that picture in the book. Hold on 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. So this is one of the projects in the Design Like book, right? I'm just tired enough to do this stuff tonight. And this is done on latch hook backing. So this is a take on an Annie Albers weaving. And there is no right way because it's meant to replicate a weaving. But let me see if I can show you without knocking my wine over. Hang on. Wine out of the mix. It is on latch hook, and I have cut up my mohair scarves. I have tons of vintage mohair scarves that are too scratchy to wear, that I just loved the colors. I even got some back in the day in Ireland, but I have used tons of. I've probably used about 15 different mohair scarves. Only scraps. You don't use a lot for a project like this. I have rug hooked all of this different mohair into. You can see latch hook backing. This is 3 holes to an inch, and there is the finer backing as well. But I'm going to show you the tool that I did it with. Right, like I said, you can if you can find a rug hook that pulls through, do it. If that doesn't work, I used this. I just used a latch hook, and I taped the toggle down like that. Right, hold on, get myself set up again. I just taped the toggle down here, right, because otherwise it'll do flippy flipper every time I pull in and out of the hole. But this worked for me. But when I couldn't find this because it had slipped into the couch cushion or rolled under the couch, then I just grabbed my rug hook because I always have that near me, and I use that too. I found this easier. I found a latch hook easier than the rug hook in the latch hook backing. But you do it your way. You also sometimes see in antique stores something that looks like this, the shoe buttoners. It's a tool that looks just like this, but often they're Bakelite or some early plastic, and they're just beautiful. Sometimes those work too with the larger gauge. So yeah, latch hook backing. It is latch hook backing, and it is. Oh, show us the back. Yep, let me show you the back. Looks really similar, but very low pile. And it's a small piece. Now, this is insanely durable because this is, and you see how sometimes I skipped a row. I skipped some spaces here and there because I could feel that it was becoming a little bit too dense in places. And you know, I'm not persnickety at all, right? I'm a total turkey, but I do this thing with rugs with checking for ticks, right? My hands are like this, like feeling in the holes. I can't stop. It's the only sort of OCD type thing that I do. I feel for holes, and sometimes when I feel like it's too dense, right, I'll go, oh, nope, and then I pull a little bit out. It's not like you could see one way or the other that it's more dense or less dense, but you can see that there were places, because I was cutting up my mohair scarves with my scissors, like with the kids' craft scissors. So they were not even, to say the least. And I guess sometimes I cut them a little wider, and when I cut them wider, it was very hard to put a row next to it. So where you see a missing hole, or missing rows, it didn't make any difference to, and I just pressed this. I just blocked this before the show and took a photo of it. It's very bad light right now. Let me just move that curtain. I'm on the move today, huh? Let me just move this stupid curtain because I think that ray of light is gone, and maybe you can see the colors better. The thing about mohair is that the colors are so luminous. You know, it glows. Hang on. I think that brought me more natural light. I am on the move. Let's see. I don't know, a little bit better. But yeah, so fun project. And you know, anything that you can think of that you can do with rug hooking, you can also do with latch hook. And the I wish you could feel the surface of this thing, because it is, after I ironed it, I steamed the hell out of it. I mean, I was ironing it for 45 minutes, and it's small. It made the surface so nice and just lush, plush, very uniform. But it is thick. It is like boucle kind of thickness, super, super thick. If I were to put this down on the ground, right, if it were a larger piece, what a gorgeous piece this would be to walk on. It would feel fantastic, and it would be so crazy durable because it's so tight, right? The mohair is so tight. And if your next question is, did you wash the mohair? I washed some scarves and not others. I washed most of the scarves. You have to be really careful washing mohair because it will felt itself. You don't want it felted. You want it fulled. You don't want it felted. Felted is too tight, and then you can't do much with it. But even if you felt it, if you cut it really thin, you can still use it in latch hook backing. You'll never get it into a traditional rug hooking backing, but you will get it into latch hook backing. So if you have felted stuff in the past and you're thinking, can't even use it for rug hooking, man, I did it now, still hold on to it, because you can hook it into latch hook backing and it will be beautiful. Talk about a durable backing for the floor, right? It feels like a really thick rug. I have it folded over, but it feels like an insanely thick rug. It's a really fun project. How will I finish the edges? Um, you know what? Let me show you. I'm on the move again. I've got pants on today, so I can move. I'll show you how I finish the edges on this one. It's not like a masterful edge finish, but this is one of the pieces in the first book, right? The book that just came out. And this is rug hooked with paisley and wool onto rug hooking, latch hooking backing. And I have just like this, not very fancy, right? This is because it's just for me and I just needed to take a photograph. I literally enveloped the corners and folded them in, and then I just used like twine to just, I mean, I did this for the photo. I would do it a lot neater if I was doing it like forever for the ground, but I just tucked it in and just stitched it down with, I'm not doing it with thread because it would never hold boing, right? I did it with like twine, twine that I use for tying stuff up. And an envelope corner is like when you go like this, right? You tuck it where all the excess is, and then you fold down like this and down like this, right? That's like an envelope with a piece of paper, right? The sides like that and the tip down, in, right? Right to the edge, and you get a nice crisp corner. Let's see, how will you finish the edges? And what's it? Wow. Just conversation about latch hook made me think I was just working with latch hook, and I talk about it a lot, and I feel like it's and if you read that interview that I did with Creative Whimsy, I said I think it's the most underutilized tool that we have in rug making, because not everybody, many people scoff at it, and it's not to be scoffed at. It's a wonderful, durable backing that is easy to find, not super expensive, right? Definitely less expensive than traditional rug backings. It can accommodate pretty much all of the same kinds of materials that we use anyway, much bigger cut, right? But if you're doing something at a bigger scale, it's super utilitarian and hard wearing, it's less expensive, and it's easily found. I think it has a lot of things going for it, particularly for people who are beginners, or it seems to be people who are beginners are inclined to use it, or people who have been hooking forever are inclined to use it because they're like, well, they've seen it all and done it all and thinking, well, why not? It makes sense. And, it seems to be the extreme of the demographic that is trying to use it. Just arriving now from work. Good to see you. What size strip or string did you use? So for that, Allie, I was cutting it as I went. I would say, hang on. I'm on the move again. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I have my bag. Oh, it's right here. This is the good thing about being a pig. I haven't put it away yet. So this is my bag where I have my mohair scarves, and they're about this thick. So let's see. That didn't help, did it? So this is one of the scarves I found in Concord, Mass. Last Thanksgiving. So this is about, when I cut it, I just cut it with my scissors about, I would say that's about 3/4 of an inch. I just do like this part way down. And, something like a mohair scarf, this is supposed to be gallery night, so I'm stopping. You can choose your colors. So there were moments in that piece that I did where I wanted a little bit of a dark shadow and I went for the black stripe, or else I just I leave that part and I just go, yeah, no, right straight to this crazy neon yellow color. And I save the black stripe for another time. But yeah, that's about 3/4 of an inch. This scarf I didn't wash at all, right? And that hooked great. In sort of contrast to, for example, I washed this scarf and it is too felted. I washed it too high. I took my eyes off, the road, but I still was able to use this material, although it's very felted. I would cut this one thinner, and as soon as you felt something real bad like that, you kind of have to take the edge off because the edge is uneven. I'll use that for something else, don't worry, but I want the straight edge, right? So I can kind of gauge what I'm doing. And I would cut this one a little bit thinner. I'd cut this one more like a 1/2 inch because it's so dang thick, right? Because I felted it by accident. So you make it work, right? You have to make it work. Even if you do a dumb thing like that, it doesn't matter. You're still going to use it, right? It's still going to work. So, all right, let's keep going. Let's see. Let me catch up with that. And you don't need a frame, Judy, that's right. With the latch hook backing, that's another great perk. You don't need a frame. So particularly if you're a beginner or you're going somewhere on a holiday, right? Just bring your latch hook backing and just roll it up, work on it that way. You don't need any frame. The one thing that you want to think about with latch is that it is scratchy. It's scratchy on your hand, right? Scratchy on your hand. So sometimes you want to wear a glove that comes up to, just here, covers your pinky knuckle, because your pinky knuckle is constantly rubbing against the latch hook backing when you're hooking into latch. So this part of your hand takes a bad beating. And if it's on your legs, if you have like a skirt or shorts on, it will be scratchy. So you want to think about some kind of little middleman thing, because it is scratchy. If it's on a table, you're great. If you've got like a card table or a little TV tray table or something that you can work on, it's going to work great. No frame. If it's felted, could use it for another project? Absolutely. If it's well, some of that was felted and it made its way into the project. If it was super, super felted, I'll just save it for an applique project. I'm never throwing anything out, right? That's why I live like hoarders style, because I'm not going to throw anything out. I save everything, but some of these are completely felted. I just cut them a little bit thinner, and you can't really tell by looking at it who's who and which is which, right? It's supposed to be all sort of directional and crazy colors and stuff. It's a fun project. That's coming up in the Design Like book, right? That was my, because I'm not a weaver, that was one of the ways I could think about to create a surface design that reminded me of weaving and had that kind of color change and variation, remained very geometric, but that I didn't have to weave. So it was a good solution to that chapter, because Annie Albers is one of my favorite people who's ever lived, and I loved everything that she ever did. So I really wanted the chapter, but it doesn't translate super well to traditional rug hooking, right? Because it looks more like weaving. Sure thing. All right, let's come back over here and see what other beauties. See, with that conversation led us to another conversation. This is what happens when we have gallery night, right? How high do you pull the loops? Kathy, I pull them not very high at all. Let me see if I can show you. It was probably about as high as I would pull them in any backing. Let me see if I can bring it to focus again. Wait a minute, let me bring it here. I wish it would focus, because the mohair is so pretty. What do you think a camera that costs hundreds of dollars would be able to focus? Is that asking too much? Anyway, well, it's sort of, there we go. And so this is my finger, so I'm going to say, gosh, maybe like, I don't know, maybe just over a 1/4 inch kind of thing. I'm pulling them up just about as high as they are wide. They're a hair wider than I'm pulling them up, if that makes sense. Because they're not super, super thick. I'm pulling them up just about as high as the strip is wide, maybe a little bit lower. And there can be, like with all rug hooks projects, there can be, if you haven't done it to perfection, if you haven't created a pile that's like home goods, even, right? Perfection. When you hit it with the iron, it will be perfect, right? So I hit it with the iron, and it all kind of mellowed and slumped into itself, the loops around it. The light on, the big light. So the blocking really took care of, some of my loops were a little bit bigger, stuff like this. I'm noticing little hairs coming up in places. I'll trim those later. But the blocking did incredibly well to make it almost feel like boiled wool. You remember those like old Talbot's jackets? It almost feels like boiled wool. It's very compact. It's very dense. But it was not dense while hooking, and it was not hard to hook, right? Because the mohair is so airy and lacy and sort of gossamer, right, compared to a strip of wool. Although it is wool, it's 100% wool. I bet you could do this with just about any kind of a scarf or any material. It's just being able to block this and mellow it all out, give it a nice even pile afterward was a really fun, it was a fun project over there. It was very relaxing, and I couldn't believe how well it looked. All of the loops look the same height now. It really did well. And when you block something, you can block other materials, like you can block cotton, but it won't stay that way forever. Cotton doesn't have that kind of memory like wool has a great memory. And when you block something that's wool, if you think about how we make hats, right? You make hats on a block that's shaped like a head, right? Like a human head. And the hatter pulls the felt, right, over the hat, and he steams it as he goes, so it fits the crown of the mannequin, right? And then you get the different sizes that way too. And once it's there, then he can or she cut the brim, whatever style. Maybe there's already a pattern cut, but that's how they block a wool hat. And you don't see wool hats that suddenly turned flat again. Wool has an incredible memory. It will last forever. Once you apply heat to wool, it will stay that way, right? It's got an elephant's memory. So once you do that, even if your hooking is not perfect, it's still going to be fantastic, and it's always going to look good. All right, so let's come back over here. Becky, this project is exciting. It opened up, I told you this was going to open up a whole different line of conversation. And I just love that. I just love that. Something different. Why not, right? And this is another piece of Becky's that's amazing. This piece I am using in the current book. Becky says, I attached this rug using Paul Clay's color theory lesson plan. The rug measures approximately 12 inches by 8 inches. I used acrylic yarn. This is also on latch hook backing with yarn. So she is using acrylic yarn. So we did the Paul Clay class, and a huge part of that was talking about color theory, because he truly is the master, the modern master of color theory. Very creative with it, right? Very creative in how he bends the rules to colors. But yeah, this is perfect for the Paul Clay chapter because it breaks down colors in a really decorative way. It's like an argyle, isn't it? It works the way argyle works, but it's another I love the rainbow too, Danny. It's such a happy, cheerful color, and I love it on the white background. I really love it on the white background. So pretty. It's another really pretty piece. And yep, I thought I had an image of the back. So again, latch hook backing. Think about it. Something different. Think about it. Right? Why not? Why not? All of the rug crafts are sisters and brothers, right? They all get along. So you can swap them out when you're feeling it. Samara was on last night. I'm not sure if you're on tonight, but this piece is just beautiful. Samara sent a message that said, "Hi, Deanna. This piece I've been working on is a gift for my mom. It's a scene of when we were stargazing, and I saw a shooting star or comet. This is the first time that I have attempted words or lettering, and I think they turned out all right. So far, the blue and silver thread was the hardest." This is miniature punch, so this is Russian punch. I'll come to that in just a minute. I thought it was going to be the gold thread as it was very stiff, but the blue and silver thread kept getting stuck in the needle, with the silver getting all bunched up. But once I changed needles, it worked out fine. Overall, it has been a fun project, and I'm sure that my mom will enjoy it, especially with her being in Maine and me now living in Arizona. Oh, and Samara also included a haiku. "Nighttime's precious jewels, creating longing within me. I wish you were here." Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Oh God, hold on, I'm going to take a sip. Oh, that was so beautiful. Wow. Uh-oh. Do I have to cry in every episode? Can I make it through one episode without crying? That was so beautiful. I love this piece. So this is a miniature punch piece, and we just had our first miniature punch class. I'm going to do a second one for Split Bloom Garden, and I'm going to be doing the Hookalong. I think that's coming up on Tuesday. Oh my gosh, is that coming up on Tuesday? Oh, it's coming up. No, Thursday. Okay. Whew, I was going to say. My sister's coloring my hair on Tuesday. That would be unlucky. I can't go around looking like this much longer. Mini punch is a great thing. It's a fun thing. The relationship, the relationship between your fiber and the needle is the thing. Sometimes when you're doing mini punch, and this happens in class always, always, always. This happens to me on the couch always. Sometimes you are trying to punch something that is a slightly different fiber, and like Samara's saying, something maybe stiffer, whatever. And it doesn't want to go through that well. It keeps snagging, just like it would in a traditional punch needle, just the same, right? So that can happen. And when that happens, if we're talking about texture like a metallic, then you might need to think about using a larger needle. Be careful with the tip of the needle. If you change to a larger needle, be careful about the tip of the needle, because then the tip of the needle might be too big and it might punch a forever hole into your backing, right? Different problem. So sometimes if it's the texture, you actually do need a different needle. Sometimes if you just switch to a different brand of thread or floss, it's maybe too thick. And what you need to do, for example, if you've got DMC or whatever, instead of working it straight from the school, spool. Instead of working it straight from the spool, you need to cut it, right? Cut it at like, a yard or something, and unply it, right? Pull it apart so that the plies come undone. If there's 3 plies, maybe take 1 ply out, right? Make it a little bit thinner so it has a better chance of going through the needle without snagging. Because when it snags, what does it do? How do you know it's snagging? The loops aren't staying. There's not that many things that can go wrong with punch, particularly mini punch. It's very straightforward. If your loops aren't staying, it's either snagging because the fiber is not working with that needle. And sometimes it's like, why isn't it working with the needle? This is a super thin fiber. Maybe it is a metallic one that's just too stiff. It's just not going to work in that needle. That can happen. Oh, Pamela. Oh, that's okay. You're here with us now. You can watch the beginning later. It was fun. So that can happen, and sometimes it's just too thick. The other thing that goes wrong with traditional punch and mini punch is you're accidentally leaning on it. This kept happening in class the other day, and I don't like to be like really a helicopter. I want to be there for people, and I try to look from a distance to see what they're doing, because I can see the way their bodies are. If there's a thread that's going around your arm and under your armpit, and you're punching and you're going, oh, my loops aren't coming up, there's something wrong with me. It's snagging on your body, right? It's caught on your clothing, it's caught on your wrist, you're sitting on it, it's stuck. The thread is stuck, right? The feed is stuck. It's never going to make a loop. That's the other one. Those are the top 2. There's not even a distant third, right? Those are the top 2. If you're having trouble keeping your loops in, those are the top 2 that it is, right? So mini punch is turning into a really wonderful and fun thing, because you can do beautiful pieces like this fairly quickly and get a lot of detail. So yes, Samara, I think your letters are fantastic. I love the puffiness of them. They look very informal. Oh, you are there. I'm so glad. They look very informal. They look fun. And I just love the story of you and your mom stargazing and then seeing the comet or the shooting star. And I'm sure as soon as she sees this that she'll cry and she'll remember this moment. And it'll be a huge big deal to her. It's an absolutely beautiful piece. It's a story piece. It's got this great backstory to it. She is going to absolutely love this. It's a beautiful graphic. It's a beautiful piece. Oh, Gretty, great to see you. She's going to love this piece, and I'm really glad that you dared to try with the text, because text is scary. But your text letters are quite big and puffy. They're bold, so that's always going to work better. This came up in the class this weekend too. If you mean to put your text in, I'm going to say this again. I've said it before, but we have a lot of new friends on. If you're going to put text into your rug hooking projects, your punch projects, or your mini punch projects, it's a very good idea to first punch it or hook it, whatever you're doing, in a larger gauge thread or yarn. So for example, if you're hooking in a size 6, put the words in first in like a 7 or an 8, a little bit bigger, and then hook all around it. Same for mini punch, especially important for mini punch. And then pull out what you did and redo it. Why do it twice? Well, because if you first put in the part that's very, very filigree, like little letters, and then you punch or hook all around it, it gets really crowded and a bit like the letters will get like deformed, right? It won't be good. It'll change the look of the letters. They won't be sharp and crisp and clear anymore. So it makes sense to hook something in there that's a little bit larger, pull it out, and then hook in the yarn or the thread that you meant to use. And if it's a little bit smaller, even better, because the original piece served as a placeholder. Only pull it out loop by loop. Don't pull the whole thing out, because then you will be searching for ticks like this, right? Looking for where the holes are. It's so difficult. Pull it out 1 or 2 loops at a time and then hook or punch it back in. But when you do big letters like Samara did, you don't really have to worry about that as much. It's only when you do really fine stuff, like spokes of a wheel or fine details, letters, numbers, things that are very, very, very skinny and could easily be crowded and be made to disappear. So it's a good technique to just get used to doing. It's a bummer to hook something twice or punch something twice, right? You should never go backwards if you don't have to, but in this case, it serves a really good purpose because after that placeholder comes out, there is like legitimate room for the loops you want to hook, and they will look so much better if you do that, right? If you pull out and then redo. So, Samara, this is a beautiful piece. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope you share some more projects in the future. This had a great story, and I have to say, I really, really, really love your haiku. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. Now, Jean, Dancing Machine. Hang on. Wait a minute. Here we go. So I hope Jean's on. Jean was on last night, and this will be the first time that I have shown Jean's work. I have a lot to share here, so let's look, right? This is going to be a rabbit hole for you for sure. Now, Kirsten was helping with this, so some of my text is from Kirsten. She sent a message. I'm just catching up my messages here. I'm going to work this out loud. So she said, I've CC'd Jean here. So Jean, I think you're like me and putting things in files and zipping them. Good, Jean, you are there. Is not your thing. Well, man, do I know that story. It is not my thing at all. In fact, Kirsten literally just sent me some images. Kirsten, I love you, for the book, and they were zipped, and I almost started crying. I got it, Kirsten. I got it. I will figure it out. But I am not good at that stuff either. So I feel, God, do I feel your pain. I really feel your pain. But you got there in the end. Kirsten sent along a bunch of images and some text that I thought was tremendous. And Jean, you wrote to me, hi, Deanna, I hope this finds you well. Kirsten approached me about having my Parker's Cove series shown on your cocktail night. I have a few technology issues, and she offered to help, and hence that's why I received the submission through her. I thought I'd send this along as a bit of an introduction to who I am and my background. I took a couple of art classes at university, plus an art history class or two, which I did not do well in. I have never been good at remembering dates, but I do remember some of the art. It really opened my eyes to what was out there. My actual BA was a 3-year degree focusing on geography. Oh, how interesting is that? So I pulled this, Jean, I have to say I'm pausing in the text because I pulled this bit about you from something else, right? Because I got a bunch of things and I was looking through all of them, and I pulled this because it's just the beginning, I think, of your bio, and I thought it was really interesting and really pretty, very lyrical. So I wanted to share that too. I hope that's all right. I gotta have some wine. It says, born in rural Nova Scotia and raised in New Brunswick and on the Canadian prairies, Jean now resides in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. She spent a lot of time handling textiles as a child. One of her earlier memories is that of being fascinated by the light bouncing off gold threads in a set of drapes. I thought that was just so beautiful. Jean's fascination with light, color, and movement was further developed by introduction to the work of the Impressionists, the group of 7, and Emily Carr during your university years. That was the part that I took. You could stop holding your breath. That's the part that I took from your resume. I just thought it had like a little insight to it that I really liked, because we often talk about Impressionism and we often talk about the group of 7 and we often talk about Emily Carr. So these are all familiar things for us too. And you wrote, my rug hooking education started with Lucille Roxburgh. Then when we moved from Regina, SK, is that Sackville or is that SK? I'm so bad with Canadian geography. I should go and get a degree, right? I attended the First Prairie Harvest. Oh, how cute is that? The First Prairie Harvest Rug Hooking School. There I studied Azeri rugs under Jean Field. I also saw Shirley Poole demonstrate dyeing over a camp stove in the courtyard. Oh, that sounds like a very fun event. I was hooked. I decided to do more dyeing. I had taken a class in basic dyeing from Doris Fulmore years before, but the experience with Shirley inspired me to experiment. In 2015, I attended the TIGHR conference in Victoria, British Columbia. Just reminded me I have to write to them. I had the pleasure of meeting many people whom I looked up to in the rug cooking world. I took a class from Michelle Syrah, I think it's Syrah Silver. I'm really enjoying the Thursday group that Kirsten runs. I find I'm often busy on Tuesdays, so I don't make that group as often as I'd like. But I enjoy the low key. That is the thing about Kirsten, isn't it? She's very low key. She's not a she's not an intense needling kind of a person. Um, Approach of the groups and a variety of expression. So you've been enjoying that Thursday group, which is great to know, because Kirsten runs a group on Tuesday, which is associated with our group, but she also runs a Thursday group. And Kirsten, you're always very welcome to make that very well known. I should be blasting that out for you on Wednesdays. For people who can't make Tuesdays or people who want to log on for both. Saskatchewan, I'm so sorry, of course. What a ding dong. Of course. It makes perfect sense. So let me show you some of these images, and then I want to use another bit of text that I cut and pasted from a different place about Parker's Cove. So let's look at some of these images. And Jean, certainly, I'm going to make this a little bit larger as well. I like to see things in collections like this. And Jean, feel free to jump in and to add anything that you'd like to add. I'm just going to pull this a little bit larger. I like to see the relationship between things. I like to see the way things hang together. I think this is such an sort of artful placement of these pieces. And you got to love multiples, right? I'm such a magpie. Oh, Anita, great to see you. I love multiples. There's like strength in numbers, isn't there? And when you see a lot of different multiples of the same thing, in this case buildings, and they're done a little bit differently, but they have some commonalities like the sky color and the color of the border, that's really strong and interesting, because we see it as a collection. It's like, oh, lots to look at. And then you start searching for differences in what makes each piece have a unique personality or different look. You start looking at shapes, you start looking for colors, you start playing games with a collection of pieces like this. And then I've got some of the smaller ones too. Let me move to some, smaller ones. Hang on. So Parker's Cove Wharf, Fishing Shacks, Groups by Jean. And let me stretch this a little bit more. These are a little bit different. You have a lot of pieces that you have done in your travels, right? The Parker's Cove series. I think you have more than one series. This just strikes me as being so fantastic. So I'm not sure if this is the text that corresponds to this exact image. Jean, tell me if I shouldn't be reading this or I shouldn't be reading it now. But she wrote, in the spring of 2021, a friend drove my husband and I from Halifax to the Annapolis Valley for a day trip. It was a highly anticipated fun break from the busyness of urban life. She drove us the length of the valley, as locals call the Annapolis Valley, to the town of Annapolis Royal, or Royale. Annapolis Royal is an historic community that hosts tourists from around the world. But we did not stop there. Instead, we headed north, over the Parker Mountain Road and down to the Bay of Fundy. There is a certain point coming off the mountain where you get a view of the bay and Parker's Cove Wharf. When I saw the wharf, I exclaimed with amazement. It exuded pure joy. The colors and unique characteristics of the shacks just screamed at me to hook them. After a visit to my friend's camp and Delop's Cove, we ended up on the Parker's Cove Wharf as the shadows were growing long late in the day. Parker's Cove Wharf is a working lobster fishery wharf. There were plenty of colorful traps and ropes. There were boats there. I took photos of the brightly colored fishing shacks, associated fishing equipment, and boats for over an hour. The combinations of different colors suggested to me there was an artist's hand at work. I later found out that the local artist, called Holly Everett, had indeed been involved in the efforts to paint the shacks. Now that's why these are so colorful. Oh my word. What fascinated me was the variety of colors and shapes. I originally started this series in an outline design class by fiber artist Susan Feller, very well-known name. I knew I wanted to stick close to the original colors of the shacks. I was trying to figure out how to tie the photos I took into a cohesive series. I decided to create a series with seagulls and the ocean with the shacks. However, after I finished the first piece, it appeared too busy for me. The ocean took away from the shacks, so I decided not to include it. I also wondered just how minimalist I could go and still get the joy and aliveness exuded by the shacks. So I'm going to pause there and say, I'm glad that you wrote that. I'm glad that I read that. That was the first time I read it was online. I love what you wrote because it's like standing at a gallery show, looking at the wall and going, "Oh yeah, I see exactly what you mean." I can exactly. I love this the way it is. The main character is the row of shacks, right, or the cluster of shacks. That is the main character. If you also have birds, you have some birds, but they're very they're the understudies, right? They're very much in the background. If you also had water splashing around and stuff like that, you could become very busy very quickly. I can see exactly what you mean. Let's look at another image. And I want to talk this through a little bit more. Parker's Cove Wharf series. So this is the Minimalist series. You really dove into this, Jean. I think this is so exciting. How long were you working on this series, I wonder? Because it is so much fun to be that inspired by something, right? It is like an event when you're buzzing around in the car and suddenly you find something that really moves you. It is an event. It hardly ever happens. Sadly, it hardly ever happens. When it does, you really have to honor it and get going. And that's just what you did. You got going, and then you realized that there were different things at play. What was in your mind, right? All of the different pieces that were in your mind were like balls that you were juggling. And when you tried to put them down all together and include all of the bits and pieces that you liked about that moment and about that view and that day, you found that it was too much and it could not be done. And this is what happens with all composition, isn't it? Sometimes you are just trying to put too much in. And then you started experimenting with the idea of stripping away quite a bit of the information. So it took you 2 years. Holy moly, that is fantastic. It was fun. It really was 12 months to part-time work, about 700 hours. That is a lot, but it's a lot too. It's not just these, there's more. So this is a minimalist. I love this. At first glance, it reminds me of quilt squares, right? It's very minimalist, but you have managed to keep the joy, right? Keep all those great colors and keep the joy of it. It is still present, but it is minimalist. The lines are very, in comparison to, right? The lines you put all the information in a crucible and burnt it down. Yeah, and they do maintain personality. Love each has its own personality. It's so true. They maintain their own personality this way. It's just a completely different style, isn't it? Completely, it's apples and oranges. And then here are some examples of specific shacks that are done comparatively, the minimalist style versus the more sort of evolved style, right? Not meaning that it's better, just meaning that you went further with articulating other motifs like the ground, like the sky, like the birds, like a path. Danny says, I imagine these would be very fun to scatter about, forget, and then you would find later it'd be exciting to look at. Absolutely. Yeah, they're probably fun, as fun separated as they are as a set. They are super compelling both ways. The idea, I mean, this is a book, Jean, this is a book. And I hope you're working on this book. This is a great study because you see this with painting a lot. You see this with fine art. You see examples of an artist showing you a totally fleshed out painting, and then you see the evolution of it or the sequence of the sketch, right? The chronology of the sketch, and you get to see what it goes from bare bones to the finished product. It is really exciting to see both. No book yet. Get going. Get going, really. You've got. I feel you've got to. I'm sorry. I might drive you crazy about doing it until you have to block me or something like that. But I really feel, because I think this is very useful to so many people. I think it's super useful because sometimes when we see a piece that is rug hooked, that is very simple, we go, oh, it's a primitive piece, very simple. And then there is always going to be that group of people that go, well, it's primitive because they can't do any better than that. No, it's a style, right? I just raised my voice. It's a style. You can choose to do things in a very minimalist manner, and it does have the same information as the second piece, but it's a different style. It's a choice, right? It's a choice. And I feel like looking at both images together, you can see that nothing is lost. It's apples and oranges, right? Nothing is dumbed down. Nothing is lost. It's just a completely different style. And I think looking at two images side by side like this, it really validates the work of many people who are like, well, this is the style I work in, right? This is the style I work in. Isn't it still good? Of course it's still good. Of course it's still good. It has equal value. It is absolutely equal. It's a different style, right? So it's great to see an artist of Jean's caliber who has really sort of fleshed out this conversation, but done it with visual aids this way. Seeing these together side by side is really incredible. Let me see what I didn't read. Hold on just a second. The idea of two separate but parallel series was born. One realistic series and one minimalist series. That meant hooking twice as many wall hangings. My friend told me later that I hadn't taken photos of all of them. In the spring of 2022, we went up again and took more photos. Oh, you were just looking for another excuse, weren't you, Jean? You were just dying to get back up there. When you went up there again, was it as magical as it was the first time? I just wonder. I mean, not that I think it wouldn't be, right? You can always return to the magic. But I wonder if you saw different things the second time, you know? The series of hooked wall hangings started as an idea in the spring of 2021 and culminated in 35 finished pieces in the spring of 2023. Now, that is an uneven number. The wall hangings can be hung individually or in groups. They look especially good grouped by color. Oh, I bet. Oh, I bet. Oh, that's a great idea. The wall hangings are all hand hooked, all in wool, except the first wall hanging, and on primitive linen backing, lined with either 100% wool or 100% quilted cotton. They are all labeled, and they are all finished with a hand-whipped edge of 100% wool, and they all have a hanging sleeve on them. Really, really finely done. Oh, wait a minute. Was that? Wait a minute. I don't want to leave that soon. We're going to look at the next image in just a minute. Jean, I just absolutely love that. I love that whole series. Now I wish I put more of the images in there. Maybe we'll look again in the future. I absolutely love what you're doing. I bet you have a ton of projects going. But I'm very happy. Oh, Gail, great to see you. Good morning in Australia. Happy coffee time. I would love to see more stuff. I mean, it's just so interesting. It's so interesting to see something broken down like realistic versus minimalist. It's a wonderful conversation. It's really exciting pieces. What a great collection. What a wonderful body of work. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in seeing and looking and really taking it in. Lots of projects. Barbara says each of the fishing huts has its own story and spirit. Yeah, it's just a great project. I can see why you got so excited when you first glimpsed it, right? And that it just hit you, that it was a project, right? It just spoke to you. People saying thank you so much. It's a real treat to be able to look at those images. And Kathy says, thanks for your comment on style. I love doing primitives, and someone recently told me I should take a class in shading. Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started. No, you should only take a class in shading if you're interested in shading. You should take a class in shading. I cannot stand it when people give unsolicited advice in any part. The older I get, the less gracious I am when people give me unsolicited advice in any arena of life. If you're interested in shading, you should take shading. If you're not, you shouldn't. I absolutely love your work. And I consider it your work. I don't consider it your work before you learned shading. I consider it your work and your style. And that's that, right? I'm also not interested in shading. I sometimes have to do it because of the nature of the business and trying to appeal to different people, right? But if it weren't for that, I would never do it because I don't enjoy it. I also don't enjoy, spinning or riding a bicycle at all. So I don't do it. You should only do it if you're interested in it. You shouldn't do it because the follow-through thought is you should take a class in shading so that you're good at shading. And the follow-through thought is because you're not now. And that's the part that really bothers me because it's like your work is your work. Your work is an expression of yourself. If you want to do something with shading because that's the next chapter of your work, then absolutely take a class in it. But who is anybody to tell you that what the next stage of your work is. See, I'm getting all upset. This is what drives me crazy about rug hooking, right? Because you don't see this in art. You do not see painters saying to each other, can you imagine someone saying to Jackson Pollock, like, oh, very, I'm sure somebody had the brass you-know-whats to do it, but saying, oh, I like, maybe he's not a good example. Maybe somebody more like Paul Klee. Oh, I like the way your cities look, but they kind of look like stacked up children's building blocks. You should really take a class in learning how to really make like a proper looking cathedral or skyscraper. Artists don't do that to each other, right? They look at each other's work and they say, I like it or I don't like it. Your style is different than mine. And as soon as someone starts doing something different, and even if that something different is very, very, very minimalist and appears to be the sort of de-evolution of art, people still look at it and say, "Ooh, isn't that avant-garde?" Right? You're making I can almost not understand what it is, right? It's so avant-garde that I don't get it, right? And I can't recognize any forms, right? In art, someone buys that and says that's okay. In rug hooking, someone looks at it and goes, "You should take a class in shading." Oh, it gets my heart going just thinking about it. I hope that you all do what you mean to do and what you want to do. And I hope that you take classes in what you're interested in. And I hope you take classes with teachers who you love their work, right? You love their work. And I just hope you keep doing what you're doing. You have your earmuffs on because, drink some wine. Yes, thank you. That got me. Because, Kathy, I know your work. I can't, that just makes me angry. I got a lot of backhands, but I can't reach too many people from here. All right, let's move on to the next one. Jean, absolutely beautiful work. I enjoyed looking at those immensely. We all did. Melissa, you sent in a very fun piece of work. I just love everything. I just love you. I love everything that you do. So this piece of work, good afternoon all, just sending through a little mug rug project that I'm doing as a class tomorrow. Now you sent this earlier, right? So there'll be an update with 12 participants. I'm putting the kids together and making sure all is in order. Wish me luck. It's my first real class using my own pattern. Love to all and love back to you. So, and I love your pattern. I love your pattern. So and I asked you after the weekend for images of how it went. And I love the way you set it up. And I also, Melissa, I never take pictures during class because I'm busy teaching. I always forget. But yeah. You took pictures before, and that is fantastic. Look at what you did. Look at what you did here. These 12 people, what a day these 12 people must have had. I mean, this is like, driving over the valley, whatever road, and then getting to Parker's Cove Wharf. They must have approached this table and thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, Betsy, good to see you. The way that you set this up for them, and you have the example piece, right? You have your piece that we just saw in that stepped or lap hoop, the quilter's hoop, which is a great thing to use to work on projects. You have this so fancy, honest to God. Oops, wait a minute. I did that in the wrong order. Wait a minute. Hang on. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Oh, no, I put stuff in the wrong order. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to come back to Mandy's. I'm so sorry. You put stuff into boxes. They look like, they're super fancy boxes. They're almost like pie or cake boxes. And you put their hoops underneath. Fantastic. I mean, this is so professional. It's crazy. I don't set up like this, I'm ashamed to say. This looks fantastic. And you have these little galvanized buckets where there's materials for people. I mean, this is just so, so fun. People must have and this is what their package looked like coming to them. I mean, how great is this? Sitting down and you colored the backing. I mean, this is so fun. I bet everybody did really well. I wonder if you took very elegant, really super, super inspiring. That's right, Mom. I wonder if you did you take any pictures after? I wonder, no pressure, no pressure. Because I'm sure you were talking after, right? As you do the class and your mouth is running during the class, and then after the class, everybody wants to talk. And you're not thinking about your phone and your photos and everything. You're thinking about being present and talking to people. But let me know if some of your buddies and your students sent in pictures of what they had done. Because I bet everybody did really great. And you did such a great job, the beginning of a very long and I'm sure prolific teaching career. It's absolutely fantastic project. I don't know how I screwed that up. Sorry about that. I have Mandy's images right. It was an incredible day. Melissa, tell us more about it if anything is on the tip of your tongue. I know you're probably working on hooking right now. Looks like such a fun day. Now, my buddy Mandy sent this. Mandy's in Canada as well. Hi, Deanna. I'm late in sending these, but here they are. As long as it comes before I run the show, I'm usually pretty good at getting them in. Almost finished, and I still have the border to do. It's a Garrett pattern. I recognize this pattern for sure. 20 by 32 on linen, and all done with Briggs & Little 2-ply yarn. Oh, interesting. You like? I sent you some of the 2-ply for the project that you did for the design, and I was wondering if you think it was too thin, but you must have liked it because you're using 2-ply here too. That makes me feel good. And you received my package the other day. Fantastic. So, and then you sent another email that said you forgot to mention the Scotty is a Christmas gift for your sister's granddaughter Victoria. She is 14 and mentally challenged. She is called Tori at home, hence the name in the upper left-hand corner. Well, let's look at that. That sounds just, she is going to love this piece. Tori, there we go. This is just one of the great rugs of all time. I mean, the Garrett Blue Nose patterns are so iconic. I love Scotties. We had a Scottie growing up called Candace, and she was such a bad dog, but we really loved her. Scotties have so much character, and they're so stately and elegant looking, but they are fresh and very unpredictable. But they make up for it in having a great personality. What a great rug. It's coming along so well. Mandy, you're probably already finished because you work so fast. I love how you put, oop, wait a minute, I screwed that up again. I love how you put hearts like embedded in the background. You can almost look over them because they're a similar color, and that's what I like about them. It's like a secret thing, finding those little hearts. Really, really fun. What a beautiful piece. I love seeing, this is an old pattern. I love seeing these early 20th century patterns done with contemporary colors. It's just fun because sometimes you see, if you did a Google search, Garrett Blue Nose pattern, Scotty dogs, you probably pull that up, having been done years ago in other colors and having faded and all that stuff. And it is fun to see things done nowadays. I don't want to say contemporary because you don't have to use what's contemporary colors anymore, right? It's not like colors are super in or super out these days. But it's fun to see a new take on an old pattern, particularly a really iconic pattern like that one. It's just beautiful. Really, really well done. Thanks for sending that, Mandy. I really like that. I really like that. Hold on one second. Let me come back over here and, all right. Sorry, Melissa. I mean, it's great to see these images again. I just can't, I don't usually screw things up. So Melissa says, they were mostly older women, mothers and daughters. Most had some rug hooking experience. The museum set up the canopy for you. Oh, isn't that nice? And they served rhubarb punch. Oh my God, I love rhubarb. I've never had rhubarb punch. God, that must have been fantastic. Oh, rhubarb. God, that sounds good. I did have that rhubarb wine not that long ago, and it wasn't that good. I suppose it could be, right? I suppose it could be. Maybe it was just too sweet. Rhubarb punch. Now that sounds good, and you expect that to be sweet. What a great day. What museum was that, Melissa? I know you posted in the group, and I forgot because I don't know that area yet. What a great day. Aileen, you sent a beautiful piece too. Aileen Castles, another Canadian friend. A few years ago, my mom and I went to Newfoundland on vacation. It was a great vacation. Amazing people, beautiful scenery, and fantastic wildlife. I took a picture of a gull drinking from a freshwater pool on top of an iceberg in Twillingate Harbor. What a great name, Twillingate Harbor. This is a rug I hooked from the picture I took. It was hooked and punched, and I added Swarovski crystals in places where the sun, oh wow. Oh, it's hard to tell from the photo, but I can really picture it. In places where the sun hit the ice crystals on top of the iceberg. Oh, how fun is that? What a great idea. Thanks very much to Encompassing Designs Rug Hooking Studio, who dyed the blues and the grays for the rug, and to Dion Fitzpatrick Studio and Della Ackles, where I got the rest of the yarn. Very good. Very good. Really beautiful piece. Very striking, isn't it? I love this rug. The seagull is spectacularly done. And he is done in a very graphic way. He really holds his own, right? It's a very stark composition. with just the perfect balance, right? You get who the main character is here. You get ledges of color, right? But they, in this case, they're very dramatic icebergs. And then if we were standing there in person, you know that you would see the sparkle of the Swarovski crystal. I mean, that is just really interesting. Diane says, Twillingate is where I grew up. Oh, wow, that is nice. What a beautiful word, Twillingate. It reminds me of the word, obviously, twilight. That is really a beautiful word. Judy says, such a fantastic sense of light and space. Look at those feathers. Absolutely. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. It is almost photographic, the bird, you know, and then the rest of it is a bit hazy. Like it really draws you to the bird. It's just beautiful. How did she do that? The feathers. You know, I don't know how much I can pull this open to see. She's got it looks like it's all hooked in yarn, so that looks clear. This all looks like yarn. I don't see any wool strips here. It's a very graphic breakdown of the bird, if that's what you mean, the knees, the beak. I don't know because I'm not this good, but I would say if I was going to attempt to do something with this kind of graphic quality that was still quite realistic, what I would do is take the photograph and I would put it, if it was on my phone, I would put a bunch of different filters on it. Because you know how the filters do this for you. You will find a filter that will, I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands of filters. You don't have thousands on your phone, but you can download programs and apps for free where you can run it through many filters. And once you see the breakdown of color, the way that you like, and you have a clear sort of demarcation of where the values will go. In this case, I see four values in the bird. I see five. The dark black, right? And then the very dark gray that is part of the black that's at the top, that little stripey at the top of the black. Underneath the wing, I see a dark gray that's also on the head, right? And then I see the medium gray that's right next to it. And then I see the much lighter gray, almost toward the white, and then I see the white. So there are there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 6 values from white to black on the bird. Now, if it was a truly realistic style, we would see dozens of shades, you know, in one form. But 6 is a lot. It's very graphic. You're getting all of the information you need. And I think he's so striking because he's done in this style. If he was very, very realistic, I feel like you would have to do a little bit more with realism in the background too. Otherwise, it might seem like a collage cutout, just like placed, you know, a completely different style, a little bit disjointed, right? I think using this style for the bird was exactly the right thing to do, because then you can go ahead and do the icebergs in these sort of blocks of color, right? But absolutely, you can use these great filters, right? I don't like technology, and I don't like it. I don't like anything about technology, but and I don't use filters myself. But sometimes, you know, my daughter has her Apple phone. I don't even have an Apple phone, but I got her an Apple phone, and she'll take a photo of us, and then she'll put a filter on it, and I'll go, my God, I look like I'm 20 again. Let's save that photo. So sometimes I do like technology. But yeah, the filters can do anything. I think it's a great tool for us to use, because what you really are looking for when you're doing a project like this are, where are your values, right? Where are your values, both for the background and for the bird? Where are the values? And, you know, where's my darkest dark? Where's my lightest light? And if you are ever thinking about or experimenting with doing something that's monochromatic, that was not monochromatic, but there was not a ton of color in it all the same. If you're thinking about doing something that's monochromatic, it's almost essential that you use some kind of, it's certainly quickest to use some kind of computer program to break down where your color changes are and where your values are. Right, that's advanced, but you do it once. You do it once with a small project, and then you know what the routine is, right? You know the steps. You know the steps to the dance, and how far you want to take it. Well, that's your choice, right? That's your choice. That's your design choice, and that's your prerogative. If you take it all the way to realism, it doesn't make it better than if you stopped at just very graphic, right? It doesn't make it better. It just makes it a completely different style. So lots of great tools out there if you enjoy technology at all. This is another fun piece. It's always nice to show something different. So this is Wendy Hybrider Wilson. And she sent in this really great image of a catnap draft stopper. So as you can see, the cat is taking a nap. and the mouse is having a little bit of fun with a big lump of cheese, but really cute piece. And I always think of draft stoppers as being under the door on the floor where your eye doesn't really clock them because they're so far below you. Not that I'm that tall at 5 feet, but I like the idea of using it on a windowsill like that. That'll also stop a draft, and it's more at this sill looks like it's in a nice old house, and it looks like it's down by the floor. But you could put these in a windowsill, of a different style house, and it would be much more at eye level. It's a great idea. It's a really great idea. I just really loved this, and I realized it had been a long time since we had. We see three-dimensional forms, but a long time since we had a draft stopper on the show. So people are always saying, well, what do you do with your pieces when you run out of floor space and wall space? And well, you could do something like this. I mean, you can still work on your textile projects. You just have to think of somewhere else to put it. This is a super good utilitarian, very practical use of a beautiful hooked piece. Wendy, this is just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Now, Andrea. Oh, this is an exciting piece. So Andrea said, hi, Deanna. Don't know if I'm in time for gallery night, but here goes. This piece is called, Andrea, you are on tonight, Indian Sari. Our love of Bollywood films inspired this rug. Label design is based on the photo. Label design is, so I'm going to show you the label in a second, but I want to admire the front first. Let me see if you said anything else. Oh, you did. Andrea, you said that John and Fly the dog, send love and kisses. And I send love and kisses back too. And you said that Fly is doing okay at the moment. I hope that's at least the same, if not better. You said Fly the dog was quite unwell last week, right? I was getting very worried about that. You said his eating is almost back to normal and his energy levels are coming back. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, because it honestly, it did not sound good. But now it sounds really promising, and I'm so happy and relieved for you. He is such a sweetheart. What a sweet dog. I'm so happy to hear that. This is a beautiful piece. Indian Sari. What a great, this is very different for you, Andrea. This is a very designy piece. Judy says so many phenomenal pieces. Yeah, it is. We had to do our second night, didn't we? Andrea says the orange dots are roving. French nodded. Okay, I'm gonna zoom into it so we can look at it closer. I love this piece, right? I love this piece. I'm so ashamed to say I have never seen a Bollywood film, and I probably should, because I probably love it. I love music and dancing. I love musicals. I love extravaganzas. Probably love it. I did, when I worked in the theater and I worked in London when I was a student. I worked at a theater in Stratford, which is not a very nice part of London, but there was a Bollywood troupe that came through, and the guy was the main guy. I'll never think of his name. It was like 30 years ago, but he was like a real celebrity in Bollywood films. And man, this show was really out of the ordinary for then. I mean, I was doing mostly like Shakespeare and Ibsen and stuff like that. I think I came off of doing like Little Foxes or something, maybe it was The Bad Seed. Like it was very different. It was very different. And I went to do this Bollywood thing. God, the music and the lights and the costumes, the size of the cast was absolutely crazy. It was exciting. It was really exciting. It ran an extended run, and so I was the costume. I was one of the costume people. I was making the costumes, and then I was also the dresser. So I had to be there for every show, every matinee, because the main guy insisted that I was the dresser, because there were some very fast, quick changes. And when that happens, the actor sometimes gets panicked that if the dresser changes, even though I'm just like a robot who runs literally under the stage and up the other side when he switches sides, and I meet him at the other side by the time, he gets there, I'm already there and I'm already holding his thing open, right? And he gets in it. But it's funny how actors, they're very superstitious, aren't they, would get really panicked about running the show with anybody else on the off chance that that person didn't really understand that they had to be in that place, no matter how well you're trained immediately. He was one of those people. It was such a lot of fun. But that was my only brush with Bollywood. I really should watch some of these great movies. You started it as a sketch with a quarter section. Well, that makes sense. And John suggested that you keep going and make it a complete circle. So what you could do with this, Andrea, did you end up taking the quarter almost like a doily and then doing it as a half and then transferring the half as so that it's basically what I would call a quarter piece, where it's mimicked. All four quarters are like four pieces of pizza that are all identical. Good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes for a good, strong composition. Let's look at it a little bit closer up and take a look at that roving. Let's check that out. See what we can see. This is a beautiful piece. Very, very vivid. Oh, I can see that roving. That the green and the yellow is okay. So the yellow is like the knots. That's like the knots that you said you were making. And is the green roving too, or that's knots as well? That is really, really a pretty piece. It's a fun piece. It's colorful. Such a lot of fun. I have to show you the tag that Andrea did because it is an exceptional tag. So the this talk about professional tag. Indian sari. This rug is based on my love of color used in Indian saris. Pixie Brook, Creations, designed and hooked by Andrea Dimmick. 100% wool and cotton on linen. And you said the label design is based on a photo John took over at Hawk's Head Moth because we also had a feline drop-eared papillon, like butterfly, my heart hound, who I constantly miss. Oh, how nice is that? So that is like a little drawing of a moth. What a great label. It's great to do something really distinctive and official like that and put it on all of your great past rugs and all of your future rugs. It's a gorgeous piece, Andrea. Really gorgeous piece. Very exciting colors. I love it. It makes me want to, I hope this is not inappropriate to say, it makes me want to go out for curry because it has a lot of that curry color in it. And I haven't eaten yet. That's going to be on my mind as I drive home. Beautiful piece, Andrea. This is another beautiful piece from Melanie. You said, hello, Deanna and Jane, and also Shannon is helping lately too. I'm getting a lot of help, thank God. I truly need it. I'm not getting lazy, I promise. I would like to share my latest projects. This was from a vintage kit. I think this is the right, I think I have the right one up. It's my latest rug exchange, it was my latest rug exchange project. It is 19 by 27 cotton backing and acrylic yarns. That is just precious. I love this. The hummingbirds. Everybody loves hummingbirds, right? I love the colors on this too. It's a nice 1920s palette. Very soft, very sort of romantic, feminine feel, very summery, light. It is just gorgeous. I love the different pinks. There's 3 different pinks in here. The wood rose, the wild rose, and the old rose, right? They are very different colors. They go so well together, and they go so well with shades of bronze and green, right? Those are colors that just are both such old-fashioned colors. They look so nice in a nice, crisp, white, fresh project like this. It's a real take on a piece that could look very traditional. It looks very bright, very exciting, lovely piece. And I love the green finish. You did the whipping in that same green color. I think that adds a lot to this piece, right? If it was done in the pink, I think it would be like, oh, it's very, very pretty. But with the green, it really pops the piece. It's the color that you needed to have there. It looks a little bit brighter even than the colors you used. Maybe a hair. Maybe it's the brightest of the bronze, kind of heading toward chartreuse. But it's absolutely, absolutely a beautiful piece. And I think this is another piece you're working on, but I don't think I have text on this piece. And I hope I didn't screw that up, Melanie. I only had text on one piece, but I know that these are your pieces as well because it said that you are plural sending in more than one. And Pamela says, love the hummingbirds. Those are also 1960s colors. Absolutely they are. Everything comes back in about 30 years, doesn't it? It's so true. It really does. The exact combos of colors, too. We wore a lot of pink and green when I was in high school. So nicely done. And you know, Pamela, we wore a lot of pink and green in the 80s again. Those were like the ultra preppy colors in town. Kelly green and that kind of cotton candy or bubblegum pink. Always, always. It was just, I still love those colors because of that time. This is a great contemporary piece. I wonder if this is the vintage piece. Now I'm wondering, because this reminds me of a design I saw from, what is it that Richards, the rug craft, right? This reminds me of a rug craft pattern. I could be wrong, but at first I thought, ooh, it looks like a Rittermere. And I thought, no, it looks like a rug craft pattern. Absolutely beautiful. I think this might be the vintage design. really very contemporary, right? Mid-century design, whether you were hooking it or latching it or whatever, very experimental, right? This is coming off of that whole expressionism and post-expressionism period, abstract expressionism. All of these periods really fed into interior decoration and interior design as well. And this is a great example of that. This kind of design, very unexpected, right? Because you think, oh, people in the 50s and 60s would have liked this on the floor. Yeah, they would have. They would have, because this is really what was in. And they were being assaulted by this style of art all over the place. So it would have been recognizable and comfortable. It's a beautiful piece. I do love this pattern. That's why I clocked it, because I loved it. I feel like I might have this in my eBay cart. Now it's going to go away, isn't it? Someone's going to buy it. But that's okay. It'll be back. I absolutely love this piece, Melanie. Beautiful piece. And I think this is the piece you're working on now. I really love this piece too. Another great abstract. Lots of shelves, but not of color this time, of patterning. I think this is a great composition idea. It does have busyness because the pattern changes, but because they are being used almost as stripes or shelves, levels, it's going to work, right? It's very horizontal orientation, but the variety is going to keep this piece very lively, and a little bit more of a close-up of this piece, right? Just beautiful. I love seeing when you all use different colors for outlining. That's one of my favorite things, and one of my other favorite things is seeing pieces wherein you have used a lot of neutrals. Because isn't it surprising when you use a lot of neutrals, how it still is such an interesting and colorful piece? I would normally say that that pinky brown is functioning as a neutral, but in this case, the other neutrals are so much more sort of truly neutral values that that pinky brown color is functioning as the wild card color so far, right? And the yellow too, of course, but really, really beautiful, Melanie. I really love this. I can't wait to see how it evolves. I love the colors going from one section to the next to the next. Very mid-century, very organic, very playful, but also very sort of highbrow and artistic as well. I absolutely love it. It's a great design. I wonder if you're designing it. This is absolutely fantastic. You should be super, super proud. All of these pieces are wonderful. And I wanted to share this great article somebody posted on our Facebook page. This is going to end our night tonight. It's an article called Loose Ends, and Carol Pellet posted it in our Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. Hold on one second while I take a sip. And I put the link to this. Oh, shoot. You know what? I put the link into the video last night. I wonder if it's still in the description of the video today, in the body of the video called the description. I wonder if it's still there. I'm hoping that it is, because it was a wonderful article. So you'll at least be able to find it if you are not on Facebook, because it is in our Facebook group. You will definitely be able to find it in last night's Sunday night, July the 30th cocktail time episode. I definitely had the link in there. It's called Loose Ends. And Carol wrote, this is an article about good people. And this article is a total feel-good tearjerker kind of a thing. It's an article about this group of people who are picking up projects for people who have either passed away or in terms of capacity are no longer functioning at a level where they would be able to complete projects that they have started and loved. Other people are stepping in with their expertise in completing projects for these people and for these families. So it's like a no project left behind. Absolutely beautiful idea. And in this photo, we're talking about, I forget how this one went, how the caption was, but somebody had a rug that was unfinished by a family member or friend, and the other person has completed the rug. So this is what the article is about. And of course you can go, sorry about that, you can go down the rabbit hole and look for more images about this organization, Loose Ends. It's crafts, right? So in this case, it's not a rug, it's a sweater that somebody hadn't finished. And here they're looking at it, and last image of the night, like emotion. Sorry, these slipped. Emotion of having something done that's been on your mind. You know, someone left it behind, or someone is still around, but they just can't. So, it's so nice to know that there's a group of people out there who have the technical skills. And oh, Michelle, good to see you. I'm just about to end, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy to see you. It was a great episode. But yeah, I thought it would be nice to end on that kind of a feel good note, right? The loose end. So you can look them up directly too. You don't need me to do that. But the link is in yesterday's thing, maybe today, and also in our Facebook group, Raw Cooking and Punch Needle Club. So let me say, I will certainly be back to you and I'll be recording videos and stuff, but I'm going to hold on coffee time until I get this book turned in because the stress is really taking a massive toll on me lately, much more so than with the first book. Because if you remember, these two books coincide. They weren't really running parallel, they overlapped. And I am the kind of tired that is, there's just not a word for it. So I'm going to get that done. And I've been saying to some of my buddies, I'm very close to finishing the second book, the Design Like book. So I'll be putting it in really soon. And I'm just so scared I'm going to go on some kind of crazy bender. It wouldn't be like me, but it's like, partying like I actually married like one of the members of Duran Duran or something like that, or I just can't imagine how I'm going to feel when I finish this project. But it has to be soon. It really has to be soon because I've got to get it into Mark Allison, the editor of Raw Cooking Magazine. It'll either be that I go on this crazy bender, which I hope I don't, and because I'm so relieved and excited. This represents 2.5 years of being nonstop busy and just not super present with the family, with the kids, not super present and not ever fully relaxed. When you look out in the yard and there's like a squirrel there and he's like, and then he moves like this, and I always think like, God, you poor little forest folk. You are always, the squirrels and chippies, you are always like so edgy. Like you never relax. You're just always so on guard. And that's how I've been feeling for years. So I'm either thinking I'm gonna have a major break from reality, or it could be an incredibly quiet thing. Remember that? Have you ever heard that song, "A Quiet Thing," from I think it was the Liza Minnelli show, Flora and the Red Menace, I think that was. Maybe it was The Rink. I'm not sure which one it was. But it's a great song. It's about how sometimes when something big happens in your life, and the context of the musical was like falling in love, but sometimes you think that the big things in your life are going to be these big, loud things where fireworks are going and everything's, and sometimes they turn out to be just very quiet things. It's like, oh, the sound of 2.5 years of struggle sounds like this. Crickets, right? I mean, who knows? But I'm really looking forward to getting that done. Be looking out for videos, live videos. Linda Ann comes to visit me on Wednesday. She will be here for most of August. So we will be together for a long time, recording videos, having adventures. We'll be doing a lot more live videos, like impromptu videos and recorded videos, because we'll be together. So I have someone with me all the time who I can play with and shoot things. And because she's a great raw cooker, we'll have a lot to talk about and a lot of banter. So I'll be on quite a bit. Please remember to check the Ribbon Candy Hooking store. I will be away next week, and I will still be live here and there or pre-recorded videos that I put up for you. But I am headed back to the Cape for a sanity break. And so in my mind, I have to be done the book before I go so that I can really relax or something. So I will say, please remember to check the Ribbon Candy Hooking store. Just because you don't see my face doesn't mean I don't need orders to keep things going. I'm always right at that line, right, with business. So please think about placing orders and all the products I have up. I have a crazy amount of stuff in this store, but know that there will be a delay of at least a week. So be looking for your orders in 2 to 3 weeks. I usually try to do 1 week. Right now with the book, it's 1 to 2 weeks. It'll be with me going away 2 to 3, 3 on the outside. But with Linda Ann helping me, also Sauter Village is the week after. So there will be a delay, but if you're not in a hurry, please remember that I've got some beautiful stuff in the shop. And as soon as I come up for air, I will be sending it. Will the book be going up? The book is coming with me to Sauter Village. And I will be soon putting the book up on my website because I can get copies of it now. If you are looking for copies that you want directly from me, please send me an email at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'm kind of waiting a little while for it to be on Amazon only because it's number one and it's doing really well on Amazon. It's been number one for a while. And I just feel like if it remains number one and it keeps selling well, visibly having good numbers, there's a bigger chance that more people in the future will ask me to write books. And I really like writing books because of the passive income it will bring 3 years after you write the book, right? You don't see it in the first 2 years, but you see it after the book is published and then many months after that. But I do see it as something that I really like to do, and I'd like to do in the future a lot. Like one book a year would be very easy for me at the speed I move at. So I'm leaving them on Amazon for the time being. But if you're watching me, you're a buddy already. And if you want something that's signed, just send me an email to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. But I'm not going to like just universally for the masses put it into the store yet. I probably will maybe in September. But if you want a book, please write me at Ribbon Candy Hooking. I would love to send you a book that's signed. Or if you want to get a book to donate to your library, I would love to send a book and for you to do that. And I would sign it to the library. Just tell me what to write, just to spread the word about this great craft. So yeah, I'm very happy to do that. Very happy to do that. So I will see you soon. Be looking out. Remember, it's not going to be as scheduled this week, and we'll see what happens next week. But be looking out. Make sure you subscribe to Ribbon Candy Hooking YouTube channel so that you get a notification if I go live. And if you are in the Facebook group, I always put up a post and pin it to tell you I will be doing a live video. It will be this day or this time. Or if I've recorded a video that didn't make sense to do live, but it's there for you, I always post the link in the Facebook group so you can go look at it at your leisure, you know. Thumbs up. I won't be gone for long, I promise. I won't be gone for long, but it's important to get this done, and it represents so many of us. This book represents so many of us again. I'm very excited to be at the end of it, and I will miss being with you next week, but it's all for a good cause, and we will catch up and have lots of things to talk about. Make sure that you are ordering if you want the Autumn Advent Calendar. 30 bags of treasures, right? And they're all identical because starting on October 1st, we're going to be using a ton of the supplies in those 30 bags to do a bunch of different projects, Lots of free patterns going up in October, and they will correspond to the stuff that you can do it with your own stuff too. But some of the stuff will correspond to things, special techniques, new techniques that'll be in those bags. I've not widely advertised those bags yet. I've only advertised them on the show, and 3/4 of them are sold. And I just cannot do any more with everything else going on. So if you want your Advent Calendar bags, the link to those are in the description of this video too. They will ship in the next couple of weeks, right? You'll get them for October 1st. So be looking out for those because you will have a lot more fun and a lot of different projects happening in October if you have all the same supplies that I have and everybody who has the bags have. So I will see you soon. Kirsten's reminding you, virtual hook-in is tomorrow, 11 to 1 p.m. summer hours for the virtual hook-in. So be sure to tune in for that and be in touch with Kirsten if you want to be involved in the Tuesday hook-ins or the Thursday hook-ins. And I will catch up with you very, very soon, I promise. In the meantime, have a great few days. You can reach me at Ribbon Candy Hooking, and I promise I will see